What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Crew 2. And in this video I'm going to revisit the BMW M Performance M4 Racing. I really haven't driven this car all that much, and funnily enough I didn't actually ever drive this car until now. And one thing I have been noticing, guys, if you haven't tested out many of these touring vehicles in the Crew 2, I would honestly highly recommend checking some of them out, because to be honest, a lot of these cars really are going to be heavily improved, like the FXXK, and I have been finding the Zonda R to be insanely fun to use as well, so I would definitely recommend trying out more of these cars after that update. I really do think a lot of them are going to be insanely good now, at least compared to before. Funnily enough though, I really did not use the Performance M4 Racing that much in the past though, so I haven't really used many of these touring cars back in the day, and the main reason for that is many of the cars back then, guys, were honestly not being used all that much. I would probably say many of these vehicles are most likely forgotten because, well, a lot of their performance was most likely mediocre, especially compared to something like the Renault and or the Lamborghini Superleggera. But one thing I have been noticing, a lot of these touring cars do tend to have like the exact same top speed. So the M4, guys, from the testing I did do, I managed to get it to go around 255, which is probably going to be insanely average because most of the cars I have tested all seem to do around 250 to like 255. So I would probably say there is going to be some oddball vehicles like the Celine S7R and or the Lamborghini Superleggera that can actually do well over 255, but one thing I have definitely noticed, guys, is the top speed on these cars really isn't going to make or break them. For example, looking at the FXXK, that car can only do like 252, and it's still like one of the best touring cars in the Crew 2 at the moment, so I would probably say even with a lower top speed, that's not necessarily going to mess the car up. I still would like to say the M4 is still going to be a pretty decent car, and it's most likely the reason why I do not see the M6 being used all that much either, because the M4 is most likely better. From the testing I have done, guys, I would say this car is going to have a lot more agility. And when messing around with the M4, guys, on these tracks, I was noticing myself actually going a bit too slow around certain corners. And the main reason for that is I was actually not expecting this car to handle as good as it was. And I was finding myself trying to be up an extra gear around some corners because of the way this car was gripping. In fact, guys, the M4 was gripping so well, I do think you can probably get this thing around corners much faster. And I really do think being in manual also helps this car tremendously because you can downshift and really find like that sweet spot around these corners to get around them as fast as you can. I really do think a lot of these touring cars are going to be insanely good now, so I may have to jump into some of the summits with the M4 as well just to see what it can do like versus the FXXK. I would say that car is going to be a direct rival because they do have a similar top speed. I also do think the FXXK most likely does handle better. The M4 might not be as good as the FXXK, but to be honest, guys, I would still easily choose this car for summits and or just racing in general. I really do think this car can easily hold its own for the most part, even though it might not be the greatest car in this class. I would still say it's definitely not going to be the worst ones because some of these cars really do struggle overall with their speed, which is by far going to be a pretty big issue. Now, one thing I did notice about this BMW though is probably going to come down to its overall stability. Now, what I mean by that is the fact that in some areas, guys, I felt like this car was a bit too twitchy, and I was noticing like trying to turn the analog stick, I was noticing the car would probably turn too much, and or it would basically feel like you slightly lose control of this thing around certain corners, and or like trying to fix the car around certain corners as well. So that's definitely going to be something to consider with this vehicle if you do want to try this thing out. I wouldn't say it's going to like ruin the M4, but it's probably going to make this thing slightly more annoying to use over something like the Lamborghini and or like the Renault. But at the same time though, guys, I would still say the M4 is still going to be a great option overall. Sure, the car might feel slightly twitchy in some areas, but I really don't think it's going to hurt it. And in fact, in some areas, I think a lot of players might actually like the way this car does turn. It's kind of insane to me because I really don't think I've seen that many people running this BMW in the past though. I really do think that's not only going to change for this car, but also going to change in general for that touring car category because let's be honest, before, guys, only like 2 to 3 cars are actually being used, but after this update, I do feel like a lot more of these cars are actually going to get some love. I would like to know your thoughts on this BMW in the comments below. and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more insight.